The ultimatum. The first sign that humanity was no longer alone in the universe came on an ordinary Tuesday, not with diplomats or peace envoys, but with the sudden appearance of over 200 alien warships materializing at the edge of our solar system. Earth's deep space monitoring stations detected the anomaly first, a massive distortion in space-time followed by the emergence of the Craxian fleet. Their vessels gleamed with an iridescent blue-black metal unknown to human science, sleek and predatory like deep-sea creatures given form in the vacuum of space. The largest ship, clearly the command vessel, stretched nearly 5 kilometers from bow to stern, dwarfing humanity's most impressive space stations. Within 12 hours, every communication system on Earth simultaneously broadcast the same message. Television screens, radio stations, cell phones, and computers all transmitted the image of a being that appeared almost reptilian, with smooth gray-blue skin and 6 golden eyes arranged in a hexagonal pattern on its elongated face. People of Earth, the alien spoke, its mouth moving in unsettling synchronization with the perfectly translated words. I am Admiral Zextrol of the Craxian Dominion. Your world has been selected for immediate assimilation into our expanding empire. Your technology is primitive, but your world is resource-rich and strategically positioned. You have 72 hours to surrender all military assets and governmental control. Compliance will result in minimal casualties. Resistance. The alien's eyes pulsed with an inner light. Resistance will result in your species' extinction. The message ended as abruptly as it began, leaving billions in stunned silence. In Washington, D.C., the hastily assembled Global Emergency Council convened beneath the Pentagon, in a secure bunker designed to withstand nuclear war. Representatives from every major nation sat around a circular table, their faces illuminated by the harsh fluorescent lighting that did nothing to hide their fear. Commander Elena Reyes, recently appointed head of the United Earth Defense Force, stood at the front of the room, her military posture betraying none of the anxiety she felt. At 43, she had spent her entire career preparing for threats, but never one like this. Let's be brutally honest, she said, her voice cutting through the murmurs. Our most advanced weapons systems are likely centuries behind theirs. Initial scans show their smallest vessels possess energy shields that could withstand multiple nuclear strikes. Then surrender is our only option, said the Chinese representative, his voice heavy with resignation. Surrender means subjugation, the Russian delegate countered. We become slaves or worse. Dr. Marcus Chen, the renowned quantum physicist who had been called in from his laboratory at MIT, cleared his throat. Unlike the others, he seemed more fascinated than frightened. Perhaps not, he said, adjusting his glasses as all eyes turned to him. There's something peculiar about their communication technology. Commander Reyes raised an eyebrow. Explain. The way they hijacked our global communications suggests they're using a form of quantum entanglement for instantaneous information transfer. But there's a pattern in the signal decay. It's not perfect. It suggests a vulnerability. President Maria Collins, who had been silent until now, leaned forward. A vulnerability we can exploit. Potentially, Dr. Chen replied. If they rely on this quantum network for their fleet coordination, disrupting it could give us an advantage. But I'd need more data, which would require getting close to one of their ships. Commander Rice finished, already seeing where this was heading. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. They've deployed smaller scout vessels in low Earth orbit, said Admiral Jackson, head of what remained of the U.S. Navy, presumably to map our defenses. Commander Reyes nodded. Then that's our target. 24 hours later, Commander Reyes stood in the briefing room of the hidden military base in Nevada, addressing the 12 men and women who comprised Fireteam Echo, the most elite special operations unit on the planet. This is a mission with minimal chance of success and maximum importance, she said bluntly. Dr. Chen needs direct access to Craxian communications technology. Your job is to capture a scout ship intact enough for him to study. Captain David Nakamura, the team leader, studied the holographic projection of the alien scout ship. How do we approach a vessel that can detect our aircraft from orbit? Dr. Chen stepped forward. They're scanning for conventional propulsion and energy signatures. But we've modified an experimental stealth aircraft to counteract this. It uses superconducting materials that absorb radar and thermal emissions. And what about once we're aboard? Asked Lieutenant Samira Hassan, the team's tech specialist. We have no idea what's waiting inside. We've analyzed their biological signatures from the broadcast, Dr. Chen explained. The Craxians appear to breathe an atmosphere similar to ours, but with higher nitrogen content. They're also adapted to slightly higher gravity, which might give you a small advantage in maneuverability. Commander Rice activated a second hologram, showing a detailed mission plan. The scout ship follows a predictable path over the Pacific. You'll intercept here, at their lowest point in orbit. The modified craft will approach from below, using the Earth's magnetic field as additional camouflage. And if we're detected? Captain Nakamura asked. Then we move to Plan B, Rice replied grimly. Full nuclear launch against their fleet. It won't destroy them, but it might buy time for evacuation of key personnel to the underground facilities. The room fell silent as the reality of their situation sank in. Humanity's fate rests on this mission, Commander Rice said finally. We have 40 hours remaining before their deadline. Whatever you believe in, now's the time to make peace with it. The stealth craft detached from its high-altitude carrier plane, its sleek black surface absorbing light rather than reflecting it. Within the cramped confines, Fireteam Echo performed final checks on their experimental combat suits, designed with input from Dr. Chen to provide protection against potential alien weaponry. Approaching intercept point in 3 minutes, the pilot announced, her voice steady despite the circumstances. Captain Nakamura looked at each member of his team. They'd trained together for years, becoming the most effective fighting unit on Earth. Now they would be the first humans to engage in combat with an alien species. Remember, he said, we need that ship functional enough for Dr. Chen to access their systems. Precision is essential. The ship's AI displayed a real-time image of their target. The Craxian scout ship gliding silently in low orbit, its hull shimmering with the same blue-black material as the larger vessels. 2 minutes to intercept, the pilot updated. No indication they've detected us. Lieutenant Hassan finished calibrating her specialized equipment. The electromagnetic pulse device is ready. It should disable their systems temporarily without causing permanent damage. 1 minute, the pilot said. Matching velocity now. The stealth craft shuddered slightly as it adjusted its trajectory, coming up beneath the alien vessel like a predator stalking its prey. 30 seconds. Captain Nakamura felt the familiar calm of pre-mission focus settling over him. Activate magnetic grapples on my mark. 10 seconds. The team braced themselves. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Mark. The stealth craft lurched as powerful electromagnets engaged, pulling it toward the underbelly of the scout ship. A soft thud indicated contact. We're attached, the pilot confirmed. No change in the scout ship's behavior. They don't know we're here. Deploy the EMP, Nakamura ordered. Lieutenant Hassan activated the device. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the lights inside the alien vessel flickered and died, visible through the viewports on its hull. We have success, she reported. Estimated 30 minutes until their systems reboot. Move out, Nakamura ordered. Remember, minimal force unless absolutely necessary. We need information more than we need dead aliens. The cutting lasers made short work of the scout ship's outer hull, creating an entry point large enough for the team to access. One by one, they moved into the alien vessel, weapons ready. The interior was bathed in dim emergency lighting, revealing curved corridors with walls that seemed almost organic, not metallic as expected, but more like hardened resin or chitin. The air was breathable, but had a strange, slightly sweet scent. Life signs, Nakamura whispered. Sergeant Lee consulted his scanner. 2 signatures, forward section, likely the cockpit. They advanced cautiously through the ship, encountering no resistance. Either the crew was minimal, or they were waiting in ambush. The answer came when they reached the command center. 2 Craxians lay unconscious at their stations, apparently affected by the sudden power loss. They were taller than humans, with the same gray-blue skin as the Admiral from the broadcast, though their bodies were more slender, almost delicate in appearance. "Secure them," Nakamura ordered. "Hassan, you're up." While the team secured the Craxian crew with restraints designed for the purpose, Lieutenant Hassan began connecting her equipment to what appeared to be the main console. "I'm establishing a connection with the quantum communication array," she reported. "Downloading all accessible data now." "How long?" Nakamura asked, keeping his weapon trained on the restrained aliens. 10 minutes for a complete download," Hassan replied. "Their security systems are still offline, but I don't know for how much longer." One of the aliens began to stir, its 6 golden eyes opening slowly. It took in the humans with what seemed like surprise rather than fear. "You shouldn't be able to approach undetected," it said in perfect English, its voice oddly musical. Nakamura kept his weapon steady. Yet here we are. The alien's eyes pulsed with that same inner light they'd seen in the broadcast. "You've surprised us. Few species do." 5 minutes, Hassan updated, her fingers flying over her equipment. "Your resistance is admirable but futile," the alien continued. "The Dominion has conquered hundreds of worlds. None have successfully resisted." "We'll be the first," Nakamura replied. The alien made a sound that might have been laughter. "Perhaps, but at what cost? Even now, the fleet prepares the first wave of cleansing bombardment. Your major cities will be reduced to ash when the deadline passes." 3 minutes, Hassan reported, tension evident in her voice. "Your species is young," the alien said. "Surrender, and some will survive to serve the Dominion. Fight, and all will perish." Suddenly, alarms began to blare throughout the ship. "They've detected us," Sergeant Lee shouted. "How much longer?" Nakamura demanded. 2 minutes, Hassan replied. "I need 2 more minutes." Outside, the team could hear the whine of machinery as the scout ship systems began to reboot. "We don't have 2 minutes, Nakamura decided. "Grab what you have, and let's move." Hassan disconnected her equipment. "I got about 80% of the data." "It'll have to be enough," Nakamura said. "Back to the insertion point now." As they retreated, the captured alien called after them. "Tell your leaders, the Admiral might respect worthy adversaries enough to offer terms better than extinction." They made it back to their stealth craft just as the scout ship's main power returned. Disengaging the magnetic clamps, they dropped away from the alien vessel and accelerated toward Earth. "Did we get enough?" the pilot asked as they descended rapidly through the atmosphere. Lieutenant Hassan was already analyzing the preliminary data. "I think so," she said, her voice rising with excitement. "There's something here about their fleet coordination." Dr. Chen was right. They're using quantum entanglement, but there's a critical flaw in their implementation. "Enough to give us a fighting chance?" Nakamura asked. Hassan looked up, a glimmer of hope in her eyes. "Maybe more than that, sir. Maybe much more." Back at the base, Dr. Chen's eyes widened as he reviewed the data. He looked up at Commander Reyes and President Collins. "We can do it," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "We can actually fight back." "How?" Reyes demanded. "Their entire fleet network operates on a synchronized quantum field," Chen explained, his words tumbling out rapidly. "It's what allows them to coordinate so perfectly across vast distances. But they never accounted for anyone understanding the technology well enough to interfere with it." "And you can interfere with it?" President Collins asked. Dr. Chen's smile was both terrifying and exhilarating. "Better than that, Madam President. I believe we can hijack it." As the deadline approached, humanity prepared for its most desperate gambit. The plan was audacious, possibly suicidal, But it was the only hope for survival. Earth would not surrender. Earth would fight. And in laboratories and military bases around the world, the final preparations were made for humanity's answer to the Craxian ultimatum. Humanity's defiance. As the 72-hour deadline approached its final minutes, the Global Emergency Council gathered once more. The atmosphere was tense but strangely electric with purpose. On the central display, a countdown timer ticked relentlessly toward zero. "All stations report ready," Commander Rice announced, her voice steady despite having gone nearly 48 hours without sleep. Dr. Chen's quantum interference array is online and synchronized with all participating facilities worldwide. Dr. Chen sat hunched over his terminal, fingers flying across holographic interfaces as he made final adjustments. The physicist had transformed from a reserved academic into the architect of humanity's desperate gambit. "The principle is simple," he explained for what felt like the 100th time. Though no one was complaining, understanding their plan helped manage the fear. The Craxians use quantum entanglement for instantaneous communication across their fleet. It's elegant but has a fundamental vulnerability. Every quantum entangled particle in their network follows the same pattern matrix. President Collins nodded. "And you're certain your device can disrupt this matrix?" "Not just disrupt," Chen corrected, a hint of pride in his voice. "Replace. We're injecting our own signal into their command network. If it works, we'll have control of their fleet coordination for approximately 7 minutes. 7 minutes to save a world," Admiral Jackson muttered. The countdown reached 5 minutes remaining. "We're receiving a transmission from the Craxian flagship," announced the communications officer. On screen, President Collins ordered. Admiral Zextroll appeared, 6 golden eyes gleaming with anticipation. "Your deadline approaches. Humans, have you prepared your surrender?" President Collins stood tall. "We have prepared our response, Admiral." The alien's expression shifted subtly. "Then you have chosen extinction. A pity. Your species showed potential." "We believe in that potential more than you can imagine," Collins replied. "And we will not surrender our world or our freedom." The alien admiral's eyes pulsed with that inner light. "Then your cities will burn as an example to others who would defy the Dominion. Prepare for—" The transmission cut off abruptly. 1 minute to deadline, the system announced. Commander Rice turned to Dr. Chen. "Ready all defensive systems. The moment they begin their attack, we activate the array." Screens around the room showed real-time imagery of the Craxian fleet positioning for attack. The massive ships moved with perfect coordination, forming a geometric pattern that would allow them to target every major population center simultaneously. 30 seconds. "Energy buildup detected in Craxian weapon systems," reported the sensor officer, her voice remarkably calm. 20 seconds. Dr. Chen's hands hovered over the activation sequence. Quantum array primed and ready. 10 seconds. President Collins took a deep breath. "May God help us all." 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Mark. Dr. Chen activated the array. For a moment, nothing happened. Then on the screens, the impossible occurred. The perfect formation of Craxian ships faltered. Several vessels drifted out of alignment. Others began to rotate slowly, their weapon systems powering down. "It's working," Chen exclaimed. "We've successfully infiltrated their command network." "Implement Phase 2, Commander Rice ordered. Around the world, hidden facilities activated powerful transmitters, broadcasting pre-programmed command sequences directly into the compromised Craxian network. The alien vessels began to move according to humanity's directions, their own crews temporarily unable to countermand the false orders coming through their quantum communication system. "We have control of 67% of their fleet," reported Lieutenant Hassan, who had been promoted to head the tactical implementation team. "The command ship and 30 other vessels are still resisting." "As expected," Dr. Chen said. "Their flagship would have additional security protocols. Focus our efforts on the vessels we control." On the screens, they watched as the majority of the Craxian fleet began to turn their weapons toward the resistant ships. "This is," President Collins whispered, "this is actually working." Dr. Chen's expression remained tense. "For now. But we have less than 6 minutes remaining before their systems adapt and purge our interference." Aboard the Craxian flagship, Admiral Zex Troll witnessed the unthinkable. The holographic displays showed his fleet turning against itself, weapon systems activating with targeting solutions locked on other Dominion vessels. "Impossible," he hissed. "How are they doing this?" His chief communication officer's 6 eyes were wide with panic. "The quantum network has been compromised, Admiral. We're receiving contradictory command protocols. Isolate the flagship from the network immediately," Zex Troll ordered. "Already done, sir, but 2/3 of the fleet is still responding to the false commands." The tactical display showed the horrifying reality. The humans had somehow turned the Dominion's greatest strength into a catastrophic vulnerability. Ships that had conquered 100 worlds were now helplessly obeying enemy commands. "Emergency broadcast on all conventional frequencies," the Admiral ordered. "All vessels, initiate immediate quantum network purge. Authorization Zextral Omega-3. But even as he gave the order, he knew it was too late. The purge would take time to propagate, time during which his fleet would continue firing upon itself. For the first time in his 300-year military career, Admiral Zextral felt something unfamiliar: respect for a supposedly inferior species. Back on Earth, the Council watched in astonishment as controlled Craxian vessels opened fire on the resistant ships. Advanced energy weapons designed to lay waste to human cities were now turned against their creators. The flagship's powerful shields held, but other vessels were not so fortunate. Several smaller Craxian ships erupted in blossoms of silent fire. 4 minutes remaining, Dr. Chen announced, sweat beading on his forehead. "Target their primary weapons platforms," Commander Reyes ordered. "Even when they regain control, I want their offensive capabilities crippled." The controlled ships obeyed, directing precise strikes against weapons emplacements on the resistant vessels. Explosions rippled across the hulls of several major Craxian warships. 3 minutes. Lieutenant Hassan's console beeped urgently. "They're initiating a network purge. We're losing ships, down to 53% control. Focus remaining controlled vessels on their command ship," Reyes ordered. "All available firepower." On the screens, dozens of Craxian vessels turned their main weapons toward the flagship and fired simultaneously. The massive energy barrage slammed into the command ship shields, which flared brilliantly before beginning to fail under the unprecedented assault. 2 minutes. "Shields on their flagship are down to 30%, Hassan reported. "Divert all controlled ships to perform ramming maneuvers," Reyes commanded, her face grim. "Target their propulsion systems and weapons platforms." "Commander," Chen protested, "that will destroy our controlled vessels." "Those ships were going to be lost anyway once they purge our influence," Reyes replied. "This way, they serve our purpose." On the screens, the controlled Craxian ships began accelerating toward their targets, engines flaring at maximum output. The first impact came seconds later as a medium-sized cruiser slammed into the side of a battleship. Both vessels erupted in a massive explosion, debris scattering across space. 1 minute remaining. More controlled ships followed, deliberately crashing into the resistant vessels. The flagship took 2 direct impacts, its shields collapsing completely as sections of its hull were torn open. 30 seconds to loss of control. "We've damaged or destroyed 42% of their fleet," Hassan reported, her voice tight with controlled excitement, "including critical damage to their command ship." 15 seconds. Incoming transmission from the Craxian flagship, the communications officer announced. On screen, President Collins ordered. Admiral Zextrol appeared, but this time his command center was filled with smoke and the bodies of fallen crew members. A deep gash across his face leaked bluish fluid. 10 seconds. 5. Control lost. Chen announced as the remaining Craxian vessels suddenly stopped their attack patterns. The alien admiral stared at them in silence for a long moment before speaking. In 300 years of conquest, he said finally, no species has ever inflicted such damage on a Dominion fleet. His voice held no anger, only a strange, almost respectful astonishment. How did you accomplish this? President Collins met his gaze evenly. You underestimated us, Admiral. A common mistake when judging by appearances rather than potential. Indeed. The alien's 6 eyes blinked slowly. I offer a ceasefire to discuss terms. A murmur ran through the council chamber. Why should we trust you? Commander Rice demanded. You came to conquer us. Because you have earned something few achieve, the Dominion's respect. The Admiral gestured to the destruction visible behind him. And because while you have crippled our fleet, we retain enough firepower to reduce your civilization to ashes, even if it costs us the remainder of our forces. President Collins considered this. We accept your ceasefire, Admiral. But these will be negotiations between equals, not terms of surrender. The alien's eyes pulsed once more. Agreed. You have proven yourselves worthy adversaries. The transmission ended, leaving the council in stunned silence. Did we just win? Someone asked hesitantly. Not yet, Commander Rice cautioned, but we've earned a fighting chance. Dr. Chen slumped in his chair, exhaustion finally catching up with him. It worked, he whispered. It actually worked. President Collins placed a hand on his shoulder. You've given humanity its greatest gift, Doctor, a future. 3 days later, the treaty was signed aboard a neutral vessel positioned between Earth and the damaged Craxian flagship. President Collins led the human delegation, while Admiral Zex Troll represented the Dominion. The terms were better than anyone had dared hope. Earth would remain independent, neither conquered nor assimilated. In exchange for allowing the Craxians to repair their vessels using resources from uninhabited parts of the solar system, humanity would receive limited access to certain technologies, particularly medical and environmental, though nothing that could be weaponized. Most surprisingly, Earth was granted provisional recognition as a sovereign entity within galactic society, with the right to establish diplomatic relations with other spacefaring civilizations. As the formal proceedings concluded, Admiral Zex Troll approached Dr. Chen, who stood nervously near the back of the human delegation. You are the one who subverted our quantum network, the alien said. It wasn't a question. Chen nodded hesitantly. I identified the pattern vulnerability in your entanglement matrix. The Admiral's expression was unreadable. No species has ever decoded our communication systems before. Many of our scientists believed it theoretically impossible. The principles of quantum mechanics are universal, Chen replied. Once we understood the fundamental approach, the rest was, well, not simple, but logical. Indeed. The alien studied him for a moment longer. The Science Directorate of the Dominion would value your insight, Doctor. Should you ever wish to share knowledge, there would be much to discuss. With that, the Admiral returned to his delegation, leaving Chen speechless. Commander Rice joined him, watching the Craxians with cautious eyes. Don't get too comfortable with them, she warned. This peace is fragile. But it is peace, Chen pointed out. Something neither side expected 3 days ago. True enough. Rice allowed herself a small smile. You know, they're already calling this the quantum miracle in the media. Chen shook his head. It wasn't a miracle. It was science, desperation, and courage, mostly from your team who captured that scout ship. A good combination, Rice acknowledged. One the Craxians clearly weren't expecting. As they prepared to return to Earth, President Collins delivered a final address to both delegations. Today marks not just peace between our peoples, but a new chapter in human history, she said. We have faced the stars and proven ourselves worthy of them. While we celebrate our survival, let us also embrace this opportunity with wisdom and foresight. She turned to face Admiral Zex Troll directly. The Dominion came seeking conquest, but found instead a potential ally. We hope this teaches a lesson that will serve both our civilizations. Never judge a species by its apparent limitations, but by its demonstrated potential. The Admiral inclined his head slightly. A lesson the Dominion will not forget, Madam President. 6 months later, Dr. Chen stood on the observation deck of the newly constructed International Space Defense Headquarters, watching as the first human vessel equipped with Craxian-inspired propulsion technology prepared for its maiden voyage. Commander Reyes joined him, now wearing the insignia of her new rank as Director of Earth's Unified Defense Force. "Quite a view," she remarked, gazing at the sleek ship below. "Quite a change," Chen replied. 6 months ago, we were facing extinction. Now we're launching our first deep space vessel, with 17 more under construction, Reyes added. And the planetary defense grid is nearly complete. The Craxians had departed the solar system 2 months earlier, but not before fulfilling their side of the treaty agreement. In addition to the negotiated technology exchange, they had provided Earth with detailed star charts and information about other spacefaring civilizations, knowledge that would have taken humanity centuries to acquire independently. "Have you considered the Admiral's offer?" Reyes asked. "The Science Directorate has sent 3 formal invitations now." Chen smiled. "I'll visit eventually, but there's too much work to be done here first. We have a lot of catching up to do." Below them, the prototype ship's engines flared to life, its hull gleaming in the sunlight as it rose slowly from its berth. "Besides," Chen continued, "I think humanity has more surprises in store for the galaxy. The Craxians were just the beginning." "To think they almost dismissed us as not worth negotiating with," Reyes mused. "Their mistake," Chen replied. "One I suspect they won't make again." As the prototype accelerated toward the stars, carrying the first human ambassadors to distant worlds, both watched in silence. Humanity had faced its greatest challenge and emerged not just surviving, but transformed. In the vastness of space, Earth was no longer isolated and no longer unprepared. The next time aliens arrived at Earth, they would find not an easy conquest, but a world that had earned its place among the stars. A world that had proven, beyond any doubt, that appearances could be deceiving, and that even the most advanced civilizations could learn a valuable lesson. Never underestimate humanity.